Hi, I'm Chance, and tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about hollow handle survival knives, brief history, and some examples of those knives and the direction that they seem to be going now in the present. So, a brief history on the survival knife or the hollow handle survival knife. They get a lot of bad press now after Rambo came out and all of these subsequent very bad examples of the knife, all your cheap knockoffs. People had experience with those knives and they obviously didn't hold up and didn't stand up. So the conventional survival wisdom now that's been passed on is that hollow handle survival knives is not something you want. However, that actually is not the case. There are some examples of hollow handle survival knives that are a very good piece of gear. One of them that stands out the most is the Chris Reeve hollow handle knife, and this one here is the one of their examples. A2 steel, hollow handle, and it is all one piece of steel. And when they came out with these, it was still a hollow handle, but it was kind of a knife unto itself. It was not done in the traditional way that most people were doing hollow handles. So what we ended up with is, one solid piece of steel, and these are great. The problem with these is the fact that they are now collector's items because they're no longer offered. I think they stopped offering these in 2009. So you ask 95% of survival quote-unquote experts or instructors, and they'll say stay away from them. And for the most part, they're right. And it wasn't until I did some training with a gentleman down in Florida by the name of Madison Parker, and I saw he had one of these knives. So I was very excited to see him using this knife, and I set about to get one as quickly as I could. And once I did that, I started thinking about, what else is there? Is there other hollow handle knives that are actually, worth having? And I will admit most of them fall into your custom realm. And very few of the production model hollow handles, and there's not that many of them now. But I will tell you that the makers of this particular knife, Martin Knives out of Texas, they have teamed up with Martin Knives out of Texas has teamed up with Boker, and they have come out with a version of one of their custom knives, or one of the knives they offer, and Boker is going to be making that, and it's going to be available for sale. It's not already available. It will be available really soon. But and I actually visited Martin Knives and their office and their shop down in Texas, and I saw how they make this connection, and it is absolutely bulletproof. I've beat on stuff with this knife. I've chopped on stuff with this knife, and I would trust my life with a Martin Knives hollow handle. No doubt about it. So, does the hollow handle make the knife any better as a survival knife? And when I say survival knife, I know I'm going to get a lot of criticisms, from people that say, well, a Mora is a survival knife. No, it's not. No, it's not. And this is my opinion and my experience. A Mora knife is excellent in the woods. It's excellent for bushcrafting. It's inexpensive. They're really sharp. Awesome knives. However, it is part of a kit that has other cutting implements in it, such as a hatchet, a saw, and things of that nature. When you're talking a pure survival knife, the idea behind these is that they're kept in a specific place that when you need them, they are there. They're not your everyday use knife. It's not what it's made for. So I'm not going to go, if I go camping and I got a backpack and I can carry what I want to carry, then sure, I'll carry a saw and a hatchet and a nice wood carving knife and a skinning knife and probably a couple other different types of knives. But when you look at an operator or a pilot or somebody that's a hiker, somebody that their goal is not to be out in the woods camping, their goal is to get from point A to point B, and they're doing other tasks, survival is the last thing on their mind. And hopefully they'll have a survival kit, but when it comes time to break out that kit, things have gotten really bad, and they need a really tough tool that'll do as much for them as possible. And what I don't understand about some people's theory on, you know, things like the sawback and the hollow handle and things like that is, I haven't yet to see a multi-tool that had a cutting blade that was as good as, say, a Sebenza or any other good folding knife. But people carry them all the time. You know, that's not, for most people, it's not your primary cutting tool, but it is a cutting tool. So obviously with this one, you guys see that they put the tracker, or I don't know if I should say tracker, the Wilderness Survival WSK style blade with a hollow handle. And this was the prototype. If you look closely, you can't see it, but there's a PT stamped here and the MK on the other side for Martin Knives. And this thing is, I like the Wilderness Survival tracker style blades. Some people don't, and that's their own personal preference. And I like the fact that it's hollow handle. It is really cool, really well executed. Unscrew it here. Excuse me. You know, you got your little compass in there, and if I stick my pinky all the way in, which you can see how long my pinky is, I still can't reach the bottom of this tube. So I know at about that much is how they have the tang fixed in there. And there's a video on YouTube, if you guys look it up on Martin Knives, where they actually show and demonstrate how they make that attachment. I have some video footage of that as well, and I may kind of weave that into this video. But nonetheless, hollow handle knives, does it give you any benefit? And that's really the question. You do have more storage space in the handle. Some people have made the point that if you lost the knife, then you've lost all your kit. Well, you know, the amount of stuff you can fit into here, it is a pretty decent capacity. With their knives, Martin Knives, you get a nice leather sheath that has a fire steel on it, a striker, and also a sharpening rod. So with those, I know I'm going to at least want to put some tinder in here, because I've got a way to make fire. Put some tinder in here. With the cordage, I have bank line on here. I believe this is I believe I used tarred bank line on this. And underneath, I haven't done it yet, but underneath I'm going to go back and I'm going to put probably like 50 feet of braided fishing line underneath that layer of bank line. So that's given me some pretty decent amount of cordage there for what the knife is intended for. Now, some people say, you know, well, what about the weight? It's pretty hefty, but it's a lot lighter than a hatchet, which is what this knife is supposed to replace in a pinch, is give you some chopping ability without taking up the length of a knife like this. Now, if I'm going to the woods and I'm planning on camping and doing that kind of thing, then yeah, I'm going to take something like this. This is a knife that I forged. It's L6. The weight is forward in the blade, the way I forged it. The weight's up here at the top. It's got a distal taper, so it's smallest at the butt there and gets bigger as it goes up. So it gives me some nice controllable weight, and I've got some good length to it. Now, as far as chopping abilities, if you hold this knife out here, you can get some pretty snappy chopping with it. You know, actually I feel like this knife may have a little more weight to it. And this style knife is not for everyone. But hollow handle knives, I think, are going to make a comeback, and I'm excited to see some of the things that are coming out. Some other people are picking up on that idea, and styles of knives they kind of go in a cycle. 1 year, you know, a certain type of knife will be all the rage. Everybody's making them, everybody wants them, and then a few years later, that knife nobody wants, and something else is new, and it just kind of goes in a cycle. But there's only so many ways you can design a knife. There's only so many variations that you can have, and eventually you work yourself back around to something someone's already done. So that's just my thoughts on hollow handle knives. Are they useful? Yes. Are they necessary? I'm not going to say if you have a full tang knife that's not, you know, an excellent choice. Does it have to be a hollow handle? Absolutely not. But if a hollow handle knife is something you want, don't buy into the so-called wisdom that they're all crap, because they're not. So thanks guys for checking it out. And if you're interested in a good hollow handle knife, check out Martin Knives. And if you're lucky enough that you can find a Chris Reeve, expect to pay a little more for them nowadays, as they are becoming collector's items. But if you buy a knife like this, you know, don't be afraid to use it. That's what they're meant for. There's too many knives like this that are great user knives that suddenly become a collectible item, and they spend their time in somebody's safe, and, you know, get one and use it. All right, thanks guys.